Hello, Deep Mindfulness Collective. This is Janusz coming to you live from the spooky central world where there is no image, none whatsoever. I am coming to you from a multiverse dimension where, in fact, there is no vision. Vision is the small detail that is different, which makes this dimension different than yours. However, I think there is a solution, a universal translator that'll allow vision to be transmitted from my universe to yours. Allow me to use the spectrometer to adjust that problem. And I'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay, that should have done it. Let's reset the camera and we'll see if human seeing is a thing capable in this dimension. Welcome, folks. Lovely to see you here as always. And it happened. It worked. Excellent, folks. Very happy to be here with you. Hello. Welcome. Nice to be here with you. Today's going to be a little bit of a funny live stream. I was informed based on, hello, howdy, Nate. Great to see you. Informed with some plans, some folks that I'm making plans with this weekend, which is a lovely thing to be able to do, that I actually shouldn't do the stream at all. I should get on the road immediately, but didn't want to miss it. I know I missed last Friday, so I wanted to make sure to be here with you guys. So we're going to have this be a little bit of a lightning round. We're going to jump right into the meditation in just a sec, but before we do, tell me, where are you and what are you grateful for? Hello, darkness. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Doing the last spreadsheet of the week in Karlstad, Sweden. What are you grateful for, though? That's what I want to know. Brooklyn, and let's see, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for quiet. Wow, it's so amazing that things can be quiet. What a lovely experience. This is Discord, okay. Excellent. So, folks, very, very happy to be here with you, as always. And we're going to be meditating very soon, but it is Freaky Friday, so any requests that you have, hit me up with those now as we speak. Again, we're going to be racing right into this meditation, but we don't want to be hurried because we don't want that energy mucking up our whole thing. So let me know, lickety split, what is your interest to explore? We could keep exploring emotion as we have been, or we could do whatever. Chris Ingram here from Guatemala City, grateful for sparkling mineral water. Oh yeah, awesome. That's one of those classic, you're at the restaurants and they're like, which would you like? Flat or sparkling? And you're like, come on, this isn't even a question. Give me that sparkle. Jean says, morning from Brooklyn, grateful for a snuggly cat who loves to be near me. That is lovely. People have been trying to sell me on this idea that cats aren't as bad as I thought they were growing up. Cats were an ideal, at least the cats we had. So, morning, Scott Nesbitt from California, grateful for getting enough sleep. That is lovely. That is lovely. I actually have had this new phenomenon lately where I don't get enough sleep, but I feel great. So, hey, that's good for me. Excellent. Grateful for being thankful. That's a great thing to be thankful for. Grateful for a long-range communication latency being relatively low, at least compared to the 18th century. It is much lower than the 18th century. There's it's one of the things I like about books like Game of Thrones or like books like this where whole battles and whole things will take place because someone just doesn't have a small piece of information. And that's like so accurate to history. Excellent here. Grateful for, I'm sure, you're a minute behind in the eternal meow. Exactly. So folks, what's interesting though is I think you can see the chat appear in your chat window instantaneously, and then it appears on the screen later. So the chat is live. That's always fun. Excellent. Okay. So folks, hit me with whatever you'd like to practice around meditation-wise, and we'll jump right into that good stuff. I'll give you a second since we're about a minute behind here. And what else? What else? What else? Any announcements? Anything worth reporting? I have too much stuff to do. That's my announcement. I can't believe how much stuff I have to do. And yeah, got to do it all. Don't actually have to do it all. I'm actually trying to see what I can cut out from what I need to do and then go from there. Do I have a weird shiny spot in my vache? Anyway, I have had this new routine where I'm putting this big moisturizer on before this, so I'm all like shiny. So folks, let's find that nice comfortable position. I'm going to crank up my mic. So for me, it's actually much louder, which makes me be much softer with my voice because it hurts my own ears if I'm any louder than this. Pro tip, if you ever want to record a very relaxed vocal cord, turn up the volume on the listener. Oh no, we have outside noises. Okay. Chris Ingram says, would like to explore techniques for meditation while going through daily life, life in daily motion. Any announcements? Class upcoming? Okay, so we're about to launch another round of the Progress of Shinsight. What's all that clomping? Some real clomping outside. Something to stabilize the mind and to work with difficult emotion. Great, that's kind of where I was leaning to. So Chris, I just want to mention that my biggest formula for, this is banging in my ears. My biggest, that's less than ideal. That was so loud that there's a little square on the camera that shows that it's in focus, and it went, I don't know why it would make the visual thing go out of focus, whatever. So my usual formula for practice in daily life is to get used to practicing in motion. So what you might consider doing in this practice is doing the same practice we're doing, which will be, about stabilizing the mind and working with emotion, but doing so maybe while moving or while standing. You could do this practice even while walking, just slowly walking back and forth. It'll be harder. You'll probably notice you'll feel less concentrated, this kind of thing, but that is exactly how we learn to bring this stuff into our daily life and activities. So you could actually pick a simple activity. The classic one is like washing the dishes or just like slowly sweeping the house and doing the practice. Again, it will be harder. You'll notice less sort of sinking in, but that's okay because you're not sinking in, you're sort of sinking throughout. So that's, and you do it incrementally. First, maybe you try doing it standing, then maybe you try doing it walking, then maybe you try, et cetera, et cetera. That is the formula. I find that more cognitively demanding the task, the more I forget to be in awareness exactly, because the skill's not there yet. So you want to just do it incrementally, just a tiny bit harder than it currently is. Shinzen talks about like first you stand up, try it standing up, then you try it stand up walking around your cushion, then you try it standing up walking, you just enough. And you pick the activity and the speed of the activity based on can you maintain concentration. So you're not moving at a normal speed, you're moving at a speed that will help you stay with the practice. Okay, great. So folks, we're going to be visited by some clang-a-dangs here, obviously. So let that be part of the practice, especially because we'll be working with emotion at some point in the practice. Instead of caring so much about the sound itself, notice how it hits the body, because this is a classic thing that people often miss about emotion. Emotion is the body responding to something like a startle effect, like something happens in the body, like jumps. That's a very explicit expression of emotion that is, triggering all these muscles to twitch. But it is still emotion is pushing and pulling us. So we hear the sound and notice if there's some part of us that's like, ugh, away, I want this to go away. That is, we're going to definitely classify that as emotion, along with other sensations. So if you have no emotion in the body, that's actually fine. You're going to call that peace, which is what it is. That's a low or no intensity experience of emotion in the body. Forgive me if I need to clear my throat during the practice. It is not personal, but you can use it. You can check to see if any part of your body is responding in a way that is positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, folks, so let's find a nice comfortable position we can maintain for the duration of this sit. If you've never been here before, we're going to practice for 25 whole minutes. In that time, I'm going to encourage you to do something you probably weren't expecting, which is to not move your body a goddamn inch or a centimeter or a millimeter. Now that's pretty challenging, so there are two exceptions. One is if you want to, it's so distracting, the itch or the need to move, go ahead and make that movement, but make it really small as you can, and make it slowly, slowly. Again, moving at the speed of concentration, not at the speed of doing the activity. We don't just go unconscious really quick and then come back, because all of that unconsciousness makes the next moment more unconscious. So do it really consciously, even if it slows down. Slow, slow, slow. Just enough. Slow, 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 slow. That slowness will help the concentration. The only other exception to staying totally still is if it's getting overwhelming. You don't want overwhelm to get, on a scale from 1 to 10, you don't want to get past like 2. So even if it's slightly overwhelming, you want to make the adjustment or allow the eyes to open and rest on a single point. Any one of these is a totally fine option. Just remember, we're trying to beat overwhelm before it arises. Why stay perfectly still? It advances your meditation practice faster. It will advance your skills faster than if you're moving. So find that nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. I suggest you make sure your knees are lower than your hips, that you're not holding your back up with muscles, but you're actually balanced. See, I've got to follow my own advice. My knees are not lower than my hips, so I cannot rest my spine. There we go. Now I can just find a balance point. Nice and balanceo. Okay, excellent. So when you're ready, we will begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. As we begin the meditation, we're training the body and the mind to begin to self-soothe, to slow the nervous system down. And one of the first steps to doing this is to physically relax the body. So relaxing the major muscle groups in the body, relaxing the head and neck, including the muscles behind the eyes and the back of the tongue. Relaxing the shoulders and the arms. Relaxing the hands, knowing that the hands have many micro muscles, so relaxing even more than we might normally think we can. Letting go of any attempt to control the breath, letting the body breathe as it will. Relaxing the chest, the back, the hips, below the belly. relaxing the upper legs, the lower legs, and relaxing the feet. And we've been relaxing parts of the body. Now we're going to see if we can relax the body as a whole, relaxing more deeply than we can even physically feel, as though we were casting away the muscles from the bone. Perhaps relaxing so deeply that the edge of the body becomes less distinct, letting the relaxation seem to expand even past the edge of the body. And we'll begin by taking an overall snapshot of the physical body. What are all of the body sensations as one large collective? So we're letting go of the mind's tendency to add one piece to another piece. And we're taking an overall snapshot. As though all of the sensations of the body were a kind of vaporous mist, one collective cloud. And you may notice that making this overall capture may be available for a moment or two, and then the mind will find some particular detail, suddenly pulled to the sensations of the left hand or the right eye. And so today's practice will be focused on just returning to this overall sense, this soft, general capture of the entire body. If we'd like to use a mental label, each time we come in contact with this overall experiencing in the mind, we can label that whole, referring to the whole body. If part of the mind is worried about capturing every little detail, thinking it can busily run around and add each little sensation to the whole, this is just part of the mind, another part, not the whole. So anytime we notice a part, a detail, something that is not the whole, we can label it as part and then introduce that part to more of the sensations around it until we find our way back to the whole. Another way of saying that we're stabilizing in awareness. Stabilizing in the overall experience. any given moment, the mind is connected with either a part or the whole, or the mind has drifted into unconsciousness. Usually in the form of being pulled to a particular part. So again, just labeling part or whole, and gently returning to the whole over and over. Often we can simply stay with this process as it is right now, using the overall body experience as the whole. But sometimes it's easier for folks to take in all sensory data, all seeing, hearing, feeling. So we want to assess for ourselves which is easier, simpler, less of a fight. Choosing what we mean in this case by whole. Remembering that any assessment, any preferring, any judgment, these are all simply parts. And we embrace those parts by introducing them to the whole. We may notice that the overall experiencing has certain qualities. This awareness simply knows our senses, knows whatever arises, without needing it to be different. This awareness simply touches whatever enters its space. It treats uncomfortable, or pleasant sensations the same. It is simply known by awareness. Whereas any part of us that wants is experienced as a part, as separate. In fact, its separateness is a kind of wanting to be separate. That's not bad. It's not a problem. It's simply a slightly narrow perspective, useful at times, but restrictive at others. So if we find or notice the part of the mind that needs nothing to be different, it simply knows experience, and we've come in contact with the nature of awareness. If we find parts that prefer to be separate, to be particles, these two are nature. But a piece of nature that sometimes tricks us into thinking that we or they truly are separate. These little pieces, preferences, selves, isolated sensations or ideas, even our sense of narrative self, me. These are like the beautiful little buds, the blossoms on a cherry tree that don't understand that they are deeply connected with the whole tree. That somehow think that they're separate from the earth, from the roots. That somehow think that they are not directly connected, built out of constantly interacting with sunlight. So we're not taking in one little piece. We're taking in the whole and overall ecosystem. And hopefully recognizing that even this image, this metaphor itself is simply another blossom waiting to be shown the overall experience of nature. course, at times, difficulties, uncomfortable sensations, sticky thoughts, emotional intensity make it very challenging to allow the mind to open, to take in more. And it's helpful to know that this too is nature. It's not bad. It's as though our imagined cherry tree has suffered some damage, and the mind shrinks around this difficulty, thinking that this will heal or solve this damage. And yet it's helpful to know that it is from the sunlight, from the roots, from the air all around, that our beautiful tree can heal and prosper. And we may notice too that when we allow the mind, when we relax the mind to open in this way, what a moment ago felt like pain can, even if just for a moment, transition to another particle in the overall mist. Another sensation that doesn't need to be different in any way. Peace is not something we find in the future. Peace is allowing what is now, allowing it to participate in our overall experience. And rather than simply allowing the mind to be stuck in one perspective from one point. If we're stuck in a single point, we can feel isolated, even at times hopeless. But if we're everywhere, we recognize this difficulty is simply another shade of nature. So staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point that is neither text nor a screen. Letting the spaciousness of seeing expand the spaciousness of awareness. And noticing if this experience is helpful, soothing, perhaps even something we could come to rely on more and more deeply over time. Perhaps even recognizing this as our true self, our nature. And in this way, allowing this particular moment to be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. So allowing the body to adjust, to move, to make any corrections that would allow you to be more comfortable. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I should be driving in a car right now, so I'm going to ask you to put all of your reports, questions, put them in the chat right now. We're going to take one round of chat of questions and reports, so throw them in there now. I'm excited to hear. Okay, we have a little comment here from Long Jumping Train. Says, can you get stream entry only doing shamatha meditation? I suppose technically. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit like one of those things where, like, what's an example? Like, could you get, really strong with no gym equipment whatsoever? Might be a equal example. Yeah, definitely. You could definitely do that. And there's a universe of fitness and health and diet and all these things that actually really help with the process of awakening. The other thing, this is what I'm going to answer here. People ask this question: could you get stream entry with only doing shamatha? Okay, I want to give a big worldview here. This is zooming into some of my sort of larger beliefs in the way that I teach. Anything can be the object of meditation. meaning we could use something that's super obscure, has nothing to do with our lives, and, really doesn't connect with anything important to us, and use that as the object of meditation to move us down the path of awakening. My personal perspective is, why not try to cultivate a place where we can kill two birds with one stone? So, for instance, if somebody is really interested in having good relationships in their life, why not use emotion as the object of meditation? If they're interested in having cognitive calm or cognitive clarity so that they're not doing things and, acting in ways that they'd prefer not to, why not have mental audio and mental image, in other words, thought, be one of the objects of meditation? The breath is lovely for many reasons, in part because it calms the nervous system. And for me, I think, why not use something that is functional in our lives and then use that as the object of meditation and then integrate that into these various aspects of our life? But the question of could you do it just doing shamatha, meaning balance of mind, it also depends how you define shamatha. If you're defining it from like a mind illuminated perspective, that could be different. But ultimately, insight has to occur, whether you're doing it intentionally or not, in order to get insight. So I don't know if that helps answer. Okay, we're going to get the computer to start reading for me because that's the way I like it. Chris says the following.
I think I fell asleep for a moment, but didn't move. I had very strong mental imagery that made it difficult to stay in awareness. Still overall, a good meditation.
Great. So remember, any imagery is just another particle. So you have the imagery and you introduce it to more data. It can't really hold a lot of strength if it's also mixed in with sound and mixed in with body sensation, however you're processing. So you even could just include all of seeing, right? So it's not just the image, but it's also the whole empty ground that it appears on. So no matter what, you can always hotwire it back into the practice. When's the next Progress of Shinsight cohort opening? Soon, very soon, like really soon. If you guys aren't on the email list, I would highly encourage that. Natalia Guer, and Natalia, great to hear you too. Great to hear your voice here in text form. Thanks for joining. So if you're not on our email list, I'm going to encourage you to get on. If you haven't, this is the easiest way to get on, is that if you follow that link, if you get those 15 guided meditations, if you have already done this, don't worry about it. If you haven't, these are the 15 meditations I give to every beginning or new student, not beginning, but student I'm working with. And if you do that, you're on our email list. You'll be informed as soon as the next Progress of Shinsight course opens, which PS, the reason it's been so long is we've been working on it, and the new formulation is very beautiful, which is the way I'm looking at it, is that it's actually looking at non-dual practice and the two ends of Buddhism, early Buddhism, which is largely where the Progress of Insight comes from, although it's actually sort of a middle Buddhism because it's an interpretation of the old Buddhism, and late stage Buddhism that has a different and much broader interpretation of all of these parts. So we could think of them as these two trajectories. There's sort of the Progress of Insight moving down towards awakening, and then there's this sort of Mahamudra, Dzogchen practice that actually is sort of, I don't even know if an upward spiral really works, but it's using non-duality as a way to reinterpret this linear map. So it's no longer linear, it's actually sort of almost circular. If that sounds like makes no sense whatsoever, basically it's using Shinzen's system and the depth, the far side of Shinzen's system to interpret something that it was a much more linear path, and then bringing that to encompass every aspect of our life. So it's very much focused on bringing it into life. So if that sounds of interest, get on that email list because that's coming soon. Scott Nesbin, welcome. Good to see you here. Scott says,
the labeling of part and whole was super helpful. I realized I've been stuck in a part for most of the last couple days. Connecting with the whole was relieving. Difficulty was still there as tension in the face and chest, and mental images and mental talk of sadness and anxiety. But letting it be there in awareness was beautiful. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Lovely. And that feeling of it feeling relieving is something that's a great North Star to like point towards. It feels relieving, and we can use that. It's also to notice that the difficulty of those parts, which is parts are often defined by their difficulty, or they define themselves that way, is relieved when it has contact with this larger experience. There's, we're less compressed into something yucky. It's like the hatchet mark on the side of the tree that's like oozing sap. It's like trying to heal itself. It's like if the mind is just that big, it's like the whole world is like, like yucky and slimy. And then if we can open up to experience the whole tree, hopefully folks enjoyed the tree metaphor. Hopefully it wasn't too much visualization, which is, people are complaining about visualization today, so maybe that's an issue. But if we can take in the overall tree experience, the nutrients from the earth and the sunlight all around us. Again, I try to use things that are omnidirectional visually because it's not so pointed. If we can do that, suddenly that scar doesn't feel so intense, doesn't feel so omnipresent. Here we next have long jumping train.
Sort of building on my last question, I'm currently working on TMI Stage 5, but I'm reading Daniel Ingram's MCTB and now I want to get into noting practices. Should I start doing both practices? What would you recommend?
This is a sticky question. I can't recommend anything because I only know what I've done, and any system is likely going to tell you that their system is the best, including me. And my system is like more feeling it out kind of thing. So I'm like, oh, you should feel it out. Whereas from a TMI perspective, don't feel it out. Do the thing we're saying. It's going to work every time. Daniel's system has a lot more sort of moving parts, but also this is something that is like really, really, Daniel's system, if you've ever hung out with him or talked to him, it's wired at a speed that not everyone's system is wired at. And he has this thing about fast noting. It's fast, and fast is better. Thorough is better from my perspective. And sometimes thorough means fast. Sometimes thorough means very much soaking in these long, slow, really intense labels. And that's fine. And you're skipping data, but you're not losing it necessarily. You're just not trying to label every little thing. It's one pedagogical technique to speed up. From Shinzen's perspective, remember, noting and labeling are different. You have to note to have insight. You can label if you want. If you don't need to label, you can have the label be very subtle or quiet or not there at all, if you can just stay with the sensation. Sometimes to increase your skills, it can be helpful to, like a drill, maybe you're an athlete and you're all about running, right? But for a drill, you're going to be doing a bunch of sit-ups because, of course, the core is helpful for the running process, but it's not running. So you might do some like intensive, noting or labeling in a certain area for sensory clarity. Really hone that. Next one, really hone that. Get clear on each of these little pieces, and then just go back to your, regular TMI practice or this kind of thing. So the 50 meditations that I just put up there, that's how I typically get really clear with what Shinzen calls see, hear, feel in and out. Especially see in, meaning mental image, arrangement, location, sense of space, all of these things get really clear with how the mind notices that, and really clear with emotion in the body. And then just go ahead and do your regular practices. If I were to just say, wave a wand and have no information about you in particular, usually what I do is work with people very individually and say, let's really hone in on what's happening for you. Hopefully that is a bit of an answer. I'm being a little bit short on the answer because of... Again, I gotta jump in a car in a minute. Chris Ingram says, are you familiar with the technique of Loch Kelly? I have found them useful. Yes and no. No teacher, very rarely is a teacher really familiar with another teacher's material unless they were their primary teacher. It's just a matter of time. Like I pull from a lot of different people. I've, spent time sitting with Utejaniya, who I really like. I've spent time sitting with U Indica, which is a lesser known person who is a student of Mahasi. A lot of time with Shinzen. But I know a little bit about Loch Kelly, and I know sort of the overall sort of umbrella experience or umbrella sort of description of what he's doing. And what was I going to say related to that? I know he's a significant teacher. I know his work is valuable. So that's all I can really say. I could kind of like hem and haw and sort of wave my hands in the air in certain things, but I'm sure he has some very useful technology. So if you ever want to share what that is, please feel free. But I'm going to leave that there. I basically want SE. What's SE? Stream entry. Okay. Well, again, this is my question. Long jump. Why? Why do you? This is what I would suggest. This is my hard suggestion. Sit down, and if you want to use the is that a command that works? No, it doesn't work. Okay. If you go to deepmindfulness.io/tools, so there's a tool there called the values card sort. Do that exercise. Get clear. Why do you want stream entry? Really, really get clear here, because trust me, people waste a lot of time. Why? What do you want? Usually it's because people want some kind of fulfilling life. What kind of fulfilling life? People can get stream entry and their lives can suck. They can be like, oh, this is not what I want, and be bummed and also have stream entry. Totally possible, not uncommon. Get clear on why and go from there. That is one of the biggest things I could possibly recommend. And you can also then pick meditation techniques and systems that tend to lean in the directions that are important to you, because every system is going to do a little something different. Mine is focused on using fulfillment as the object of meditation as we move through life.
Could only do the second half due to work, but it felt like one of the most impactful ones yet. Will repeat later for sure. Cherry tree metaphor was great, really felt the interconnectedness of everything. Instead of always solving all our problems, there seems to be another option of just dissolve any boundaries in kind awareness instead, like the mind doesn't realize it's just a part or something, so it's making everything a really big deal.
Yeah. And Nick, I just want to say, I feel like you're really hitting a stride with your experiential understanding. I can just tell from the way you're talking about stuff, like you're starting to get it on an experiential level, which is awesome. I really appreciate that. And part of the mind divides the world up, and it thinks that that's how it has to manage everything. It's all these little parts, but it's psychotic if you actually try to include all the parts. So you'll notice right now, you're looking at a screen or listening, whatever. The world consists of a few parts. There's you, that's a part. There's some objects around you. There's maybe a task that you have in mind, but it can't hold that many parts, and it just switches and then adds, okay, over here is a part, and over here is a part, and forgets and doesn't notice that in order for this moment to feel as solid as it is, all the other moments have to be way, way diminished. The other rooms of your house, the other things that you're doing have to be gone. But then you look at them and they appear and it seems like they're solid, but it's really silly. It's like a video game and it only renders little pieces at a time. And it's this lie that it is all rendered all the time. It is not the case. The mind is trying to hold the world together constantly. And why is it doing that? Well, for survival. That's really helpful for survival. And maybe that's it. But we're not just interested in survival, we're interested in fulfillment. So sometimes we have to work counter to that drive. Awakening is counter to the drive, the sole drive of survival.
Thanks for the answer, very helpful. Also really appreciate you doing these streams.
Totally, happy to be here. Okay, this is the last comment from Chris, except for any parting words anyone wants to throw out here. Chris says,
isn't Shay just an overall better way of experiencing? It seems that you think that is not necessarily the case.
It's not. Okay, hot take, and I think I'm just as wrong in saying this as I am correct. No, I don't think stream entry is a better way of experiencing. It is a different way of experiencing that I think is preferable in a certain way. I don't know what the difference is here, but it could be actually, there's experiences where stream entry is less pleasant. This is what we talk about the dark night, and that might not be stream entry, it might be pre-stream entry, but this material can be very challenging. It can be very confusing. It can make us less efficient. It can make us less connected. It can do these things. It usually tends not to, but those are possibilities. But remember, it is a perceptual shift that can provide a lot of leverage. Doesn't have to, though. The question is leverage towards what? Why? There are people who I mean, this is the classic thing. You go to the retreat, you experience dream entry, you return home, and your taxes aren't paid, and your wife has left you because you're just neglecting your life. Why are you doing this? Why? Do you want a fulfilling life or not? If you want a fulfilling life and you think stream entry and awakening and the whole process of deepening our, spiritual acuity can be a wedge to move you in the direction you want, great. Probably will work. Probably be a helpful tool. If you think it's going to give you all that, absolutely not. 100% not. It will not give you anything. I want to be clear here. It will give you literally nothing. You get nothing. Not that you like lose everything, although maybe kind of, there's nothing. It's empty. So like, you don't get anything. And there's always this sense, yeah, but I'm just going to get it. It's going to be awesome. It's like, no, you get nothing. It's realizing there is no getting. So that might sound discouraging, but I just want to be real and say, like, again, we want to gear our whole lives towards fulfillment. What is important to us? What are our values? And if awakening is part of that and is really interesting and feels like it would help, etc., then do that. But if we train ourselves to just do something and ignore all this other stuff, we're going to just come out really unbalanced, and that's much less than ideal. Chris Ingram says, thank you for the stream. Very helpful for you. So folks, I'm going to jump right in here with our outro. We're going to be back here on Monday. Good times for all. What does that mean? That means that we are going to be here in fewer than 72 hours. Folks, be here with you. I want to just tell you in this moment, notice all the particles. Notice that they're part of the whole. We don't have to feel separate. We can, if it's helpful, but we don't want to feel like we're in the prison of separateness, the prison of wanting, the prison of needing. As always, folks, practice well, take care of each other, have fun, and we'll see you all very, very soon.